Today, I am Carrie Blazer. Thank you so much for coming on a Saturday. And I promise I'm going to share tons of wisdom and knowledge so that you can learn how to heal from your childhood trauma on your own. And these are techniques you can implement in your daily life for free. So how people in general can remove internal roadblocks and transform emotional wounds into personal wisdom without depending on therapy and without outsourcing your sovereignty. In a healthy family, children learn how to process their emotional pain in a healthy way. I didn't. I came from an alcoholic mother and a dad who worked too much, a workaholic father. And so I had to reparent myself over the past 10 years. I'm going to share the wisdom and knowledge I gained along the way. Okay. Today, to get the most out of today's webinar, please gather the following: water, I have mine, a notebook, a pen, and a mirror or a phone. And if you have someplace comfy to lay down, that'd be great too, because I decided to add, we'll do meditation and drumming today and learn the physiological benefits of them. And then I'll show you through, tried and true experience how it actually works and how it can help you. I have a video that you can use daily on my YouTube channel for free with meditation and drumming. So before we begin, 3 agreements. 1, this work requires presence, not multitasking, not passive listening. That's why the pen and the journal are so helpful. And you will get a copy of today's webinar in your email this coming week. But it's really important to stay focused so you can get the most out of today. And I do this webinar every Saturday, so please feel free to come back every Saturday, same Zoom link, same time, and you can get come back for free. All right. So agreement number 2, take accountability for your problems in order to transform your life. Ooh. You ever heard the saying, no one's coming to save you? And then when you realize no one's coming and you pull, please mute yourselves. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do it yourself. Linda's iPhone. Linda, can you please mute yourself? Linda, please mute yourself.
I don't know how.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Hang on a second. That's okay. Thank you for saying you don't know how, Linda. I appreciate that. Let me find you. Okay, Nancy, we're going to mute and...
Won't let me change.
If you go to the bottom left on audio, that's where it is. I don't see you, Linda.
I do. I'm Zoom challenged.
Yeah, I don't see you, Linda.
It won't let me change.
If you go down to audio on the bottom left, you just click over it and it'll become red.
Finally, audio. I had to tap on the screen to get the choices.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. If you can't do it, if you could just be quiet, I'd really appreciate it, because I am not an expert here. Okay. Share. Is it? Okay, let me go back. Now I'm having technical difficulties. Okay, here we go. All right, we're back. All right, so number 3, oops, went too far. You are not a victim. Take responsibility for your emotions. When I took responsibility for my problems and started seeking help and realizing that I'm the only one who can get in my own way, that I'm the only one who can block my progression, then I did a deep dive back into myself. And it was very, very helpful. So today's training works best when you take notes, stay engaged, ask real questions, type them in the chat, and I will answer directly as soon as I can. I might not get to it right away, but I promise to get to it. And at the end, in about an hour and a half, I will leave myself available to answer all of your questions. We can open up and talk. We don't have to do it via chat. Breakthrough context. I don't heal people. I teach you how to heal yourself. I teach you how to transform your emotional wounds into personal wisdom. Here's an example. 2 years into my healing, I had an argument with my youngest daughter. She was 16 at the time. That was about 8 years ago. And I was wrong and I needed to apologize. I had finally gained the capacity to ask myself, why am I having this problem? So I oh shoot, I'm realizing that's okay. So I asked myself, why am I having this problem? And my my self told me, you believe that if you apologize, your loved ones will leave you. I was like, well, that's not logical. And so that subconscious lie belief was fueling the breakdown in my relationships because I was afraid to apologize for a reason I wasn't even aware of, but that was in me. I was like, oh, well, logic is if I apologize, my loved ones will want to stay. And so I turned that wound into wisdom. And now, for the past 8 years, I don't have any problems apologizing. But I had to learn how to open myself up, listen to myself, and make those changes internally because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to do it. So, okay. I teach people how to heal themselves like that. Oh, this distinction changes everything. So, one quick question for the chat. True or false? I'm done circling the same internal destructive patterns and I'm ready to resolve them. Type true in the chat if that's you. If this is really where you want to be. If this is really, you're really ready to make the changes in your life to create healthier relationship with yourself and then have that mirrored into all of your friendships, your family relationships, your job. So let's see, are people ready to go? True, awesome. People are ready to go. Let's dive in further then. Okay, so before we go any further, let me share about myself. Why you can trust this work. I did it myself first. 7 years ago, I attempted suicide. Then I was like on a mission to heal. I have 3 grown kids and I'm over here attempting suicide. Like I need to get my act together. Then after that, I healed myself and loved myself so much that all my shamanic gifts came out and I experienced enlightenment all in just 5 years. And we'll explain how the suicide attempt, that level of darkness, completely set me up for that level of illumination. I had to learn that life is like jumping on a trampoline. The deeper you go, the higher you fly. Hard lesson to learn, but I had to learn my lessons. I had a traumatic childhood and I went out and got a master's degree in East Asian religious studies. I've been searching for solutions my whole life and my degree really points to that. Luckily, I met my ex-husband in Tibet and he's Israeli, so I got to explore Israel as well. But I learned a lot through those experiences. I take a multidisciplinary approach to trauma healing, and we'll get into that in a second. All of my approaches are grounded in neuroscience, physics, psychology. I love Carl Jung, and it's used by military, FBI, and first responders. My core insight: you are a soul operating a nervous system. And if you don't know how to operate it, it will operate you. And my nervous system, my soul operated me for until I was 45, 47 years old when I finally learned how to apologize at 47 years old. That is how much my wounds, my trauma was operating me. So if you're interested in learning how to operate it and transform your nervous system so it resonates with love, compassion, and enlightenment instead of fear, guilt, and shame, then you're in the right place because I'm going to go over all of that today. And let's be honest about today. I'm going to share my multidisciplinary sources of wisdom and knowledge so you can refer to what I share today as well as the people I got a lot of this wisdom and knowledge from. We're going to do a deep dive in how I healed from my childhood trauma as examples so you can see, oh, I can apply that to myself this way. I can apply that to myself that way. Use it as a mirror for your own growth. Explain how to implement my self-love strategies into your life. We're towards the second half of the webinar. We're going to get into a deep dive into that. Reveal my recommendations for other DIY trauma healing techniques, things you can do at home, right? For free, that you can put as part of your everyday flow. And if you'd like more assistance healing trauma or with enlightenment, then I'll discuss how to work with me privately at the end of the webinar. And, I experience enlightenment now, but I got help from other people as well. So I want to leave that option open for you if anyone wants further assistance. And today we're going to do 6 free DIY trauma healing techniques. One of them being the free ebook you already got, my 6 Divine Feminine Self-Love Techniques, my recommendations for daily healing, my YouTube channel, meditation and shamanic drumming, trauma healing discussion techniques, Carl Jung's mirror exercise, Lakota star feeding, and recommendations from other professionals. Hang on a second, I think I'm not, oh no, I'm recording. I'm sorry about that. Whoops. Yep, okay. All right. Multidisciplinary sources of wisdom and knowledge. My intuition, psychology. I love Carl Jung. Cardiology. We're going to get in today how the heart is a vortex. That's fascinating. I just learned that recently. Neuroscience, shamanism, laws of physics, mysticism, family medicine, and epigenetics. And what I learned is that when something's true, it's true in multiple places. Sorry, I messed up the recording that was already going on. All right, shamanism. Like I said, I'm learning all my technical stuff here. First, let me share the dedication of my book. So 10 years ago, on my 45th birthday, my mom passed away. Please mute yourselves. And on that day, my intuition told me that it's time to accept my intuition, accept my psychic gifts, and you're going to get a copy of this, and we're going to go over all those techniques, I promise. Okay. You're welcome. So 10 years ago, my mom got really sick. She's an alcoholic. She got encephalopathy. She stopped being able to swallow, and that never comes back. Once the swallowing is gone, it's gone forever. And she hates tubes, hates being in the hospital. So I went to Florida, brought her back to California. She saw everybody, and she died without tubes, but she died on the morning of my 45th birthday, June 25th. And when she came through to me in a dream, and after the dream, I woke up and I knew it was time to accept my psychic gifts and heal from my childhood trauma. And that's when I started healing. And so I wrote my book and published about a year ago. And I was really figuring out how to love my femininity. Because of my childhood trauma, I pushed myself into my masculine to protect myself. I had a fear of all men from my traumatic childhood, which included rape, and it was gnarly. So I titled my book, My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain. And when I came upon this Cherokee proverb, it really helped solidify that my intuition had guided me to do this internal work, to bring out these capabilities, to connect myself and other people to their soul. So when I read it, it was like, that's what I do. So it says, a woman's highest calling is to lead a man to his soul, so as to unite him with source. A man's highest calling is to protect a woman, so she is free to walk the earth unharmed. And this is my book. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was there. Let's keep going. Even the box of emotional pain he left me with was a gift. This is the end of my book in the last chapter. And the last chapter took me back to my childhood. And something that I didn't introduce in the beginning, because I really want to make it about how you can heal and not any kind of sensationalism about me, but it's important for me to share. After I published my book last year, I did a deep dive into tons of signs and synchronicities about who I might be the reincarnation of. And I kept being told I'm on the Jesus Council, on a mission from God, like the Blues Brothers. I'm an agent of God. Agents of God hide things in one lifetime to be found in another. And I was like, okay, Jesus, like, did Jesus have a wife? I Googled it. Like I went east for religious studies. I didn't go west. I didn't practice Christianity as a child. I mean, sure, I went to church sometimes, but I didn't even know when the Last Supper was. Like, I just never focused on it. And came up Mary Magdalene. So after doing a deep dive last summer and last fall, I accepted that I'm the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. And one of the reasons I knew that is my guy from my childhood. His initials are JC. He's currently the head of global security at GoDaddy, former FBI. But we had a lot of trauma between us. And I had to accept that even the box of emotional pain he left me with as a teenager, at 15, I started having debilitating lower back pain. My womb was screaming at me and I didn't know how to listen. And the process of turning those wounds into wisdom, is the gift he left me with. And that's why I was able to experience enlightenment and expand my emotional range. That's how my soul planned for me to expand my emotional range. I had to explore my depths before I explore my heights. And I had to accept that if I want Mount Everest size wisdom, then I have to take on Mount Everest size wounds. And that's exactly what I did. And so if you're in that boat where you've had a traumatic childhood, you don't know how to heal, I've been through it and I'm here to help you as well. My book can help you. The ebook can help you. My YouTube channel, we'll get into that, can help you. And it's all on purpose. It's all, your soul has a plan to expand your emotional range so you can become a more conscious, self-aware, mature adult. And so when I came upon this wisdom the first time, which was several years ago, this old shamanic wisdom that says, when a person with anxiety went to a shaman, he would ask, when was the last time you danced, sang, or experienced joy? That's what the shaman would ask. And I spent years, like, why is that what he would ask?
Timer for 23 minutes.
Can you guys put yourselves on mute, please? Let me see if I can make sure. Oh, here's mute. Mute. Make sure. If everyone could put themselves on mute. Oh, I'd really appreciate it. Oh, there's one more. Then I don't have to stop. Okay, let me go back. And, okay. All right. So, but now I know what the shaman was talking about and what they knew intuitively. When we spend time in fear, guilt, and shame, then that's how we calibrate our nervous system, and that's what attracts our life into us. But when we calibrate our nervous system for love, compassion, and enlightenment, which dancing, singing, and joy helps us do, then that's the reparenting process. My whole childhood was fear, guilt, and shame. Be quiet, Carrie. You're too direct, Carrie. You're too intuitive, Carrie. Just shut up, Carrie. That was my childhood. I was an embarrassment because I was direct and intuitive. So I just shut myself off, closed down my heart, didn't have friends, spent a lot of time alone, and that's how I've been for most of my life. And it's very challenging. But now that I know why I did it, I needed to repress my emotions that much and push myself down that much so that when I found myself, I could go that deeply. I had to go that deeply down into myself and pull all this wisdom out to help myself and to help everybody else. It was all by design. My soul has. So, your soul. And we're going to start with Einstein. The field is the sole governing agency of the particle. What does that mean? The field, or the energy field, is the sole governing agency of the body. And where did I get this quote from? Dr. Bruce Lipton. I was on a small Zoom call with him and like 20 other people. And he taught this. And who is Dr. Bruce Lipton? He's like the godfather of epigenetics. Epi meaning before, genetics. What happens before the genetics turn on? Well, the field. And he taught me that our cells have receptors on them. And they aren't receptors for other people's energy. They're receptors for our own energy, our own soul. So, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, which you may have heard, he's a neuroscientist who specializes in healing trauma. We're going to hear what he has to say about this quote right now.
Einstein said the field, the wave, the energy is the sole governing agency of the particle. Energy controls matter. He didn't say particle controls the particle. He said the field controls the particle. If you change the information in the field and you change the projection, the particle in three-dimensional reality, this is a holographic universe. So if the quantum field is an invisible field of energy that exists beyond our senses, beyond our body, our environment, and time, then the only way we're going to connect to it is take all of our attention off our body, all of our attention off the environment. What's the environment made of? People, objects, things, places, and take all of your attention off of linear time, the predictable future and the familiar past, and find the sweet spot of the generous present moment. That's the unknown. That's the door. That's the moment you become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, no time. That is the moment you are pure consciousness. And that is the moment you're walking through the door to the quantum field.
So the reason he says remove all of your attention outside of yourself, because all of that is a projection of yourself. Carl Jung did a lot of work on projection. And so today we're going to learn how that operates. And one of the teachings in my ebook is the universe is a mirror. That's all about projection. We're going to learn how the heart is a vortex, like a black hole for creation, which aligns with the universe is a mirror. And we're going to rely on the laws of physics to understand how all that functions. And here it is. So, how does a holographic universe operate? The wisdom says, the universe is a mirror, showing me myself in every moment as a constant feedback loop for self-improvement. Knowledge says we attract what we are through energetic resonance, meaning a vibrational match. And this physics experiment will show us what it means, a vibrational match. You know, why don't we start here with the physics experiment? Because it really explains the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. And what this experiment shows is that when you have two tuning forks, and one is 512 hertz and one is 440 hertz, when the 512 moves, the 440 doesn't even notice. They don't resonate. They're not a vibrational match. They don't see each other. They don't acknowledge each other. But when both of the tuning forks are 440, when one moves, the other moves. And so the particle only moves because of the field. And we're going to see right here why the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. And the field means what vibration is the field? And do they resonate, and are they a match? And how can you apply this to yourself and seeing yourself? We'll get to that in a second. But let's start with the physics experiment. When I found that experiment, I was like, that's the best visual example I can show. When you're the same vibration, the same hertz, the same frequency, that's when you mirror each other. That's when you see each other. And physicists have proven that we all have energy bodies. And our energy bodies, our souls, communicate through emotion. So what is doing the resonating is our emotions, and our emotions are how we feel about ourselves. I used to have a fear of all men, and I was in society running around crazy. When I found that inside myself and turned my wound into wisdom, fear all men, I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. When I saw it, I mean, sure, some men are scary, but not all men. And to the wisdom is men protect me. I went out into public the next day with my older daughter, and she's the one that found me after my suicide attempt. And she used to sell jewelry in public, in markets all the time. And I would be there with her every Saturday. So she knew really well how anxious I was in public. I showed up at her table. She's like, Mom, what happened? What's different, Mom? Mom, what happened to you? She noticed immediately. I was like, oh, I saw that I feared all men and now I don't. And that's why I feel better. She's like, go, Mom. Like, immediately. That's how important this work is. That's how quickly it can impact you. It doesn't mean you can do it all at once. Your soul has a plan to show you yourself, like to be here today. Why did you resonate a vibrational match with this webinar? It's because I have something to help you learn how to turn your wounds into wisdom, how to calibrate your nervous system for love, compassion, and enlightenment instead of fear, guilt, and shame. And then you can bring that out into the world, and together we can see that self-love creates heaven on earth. Love is a frequency in our hearts. And last year I did a little bit of a deep dive into early Christianity versus a Christianity that was formed in the 4th century at the Council of Nicaea. And the early Christians, Mary Magdalene, which I didn't know that much about at all, besides like the movie The Da Vinci Code. I was like, oh, they're teaching inner authority, not external authority. Inner locus of control, that the universe is a hologram. Like they knew this 2,000 years ago. Leonardo da Vinci, when he studied the heart, he picked up on the heart was a vortex, but that was shut down. That much inner authority, didn't really go well with the powers that be. But if we look over here at all these different frequencies, we see that fear, guilt, and shame all vibrate below 100 hertz. One of the doctors we're going to hear from today is Dr. Gabor Mate, and he specializes in how childhood trauma impacts adults. And we're going to read one of his quotes that shows how when people do not take care of themselves physiologically because they prioritize other people rather than themselves due to childhood trauma, then their body, will say no for them because they can't say no in the form of disease such as cancer. Cancer, viruses, and bacteria all vibrate below 100 hertz. I haven't been sick in 6-7 years. And I almost died of bacterial pneumonia after my second child was born. I used to get sick all the time. I was sick when my son, when he was 3 months old, I got really sick. But I didn't. I went out, I was at hot yoga during COVID, never got a shot, never got sick. Because I didn't fear it. I didn't need the universe to mirror it back to me to show me my fears. I used to have a fear of sexual assault, so in college I got sexually assaulted, as well as a teenager. Because that was how my soul showed it to me. I used to attract players into my life. Andrew Tate, via a personal relationship with his best friend, being 2 of them, and they're in my book. Because I had a wound that I'm replaceable. So my soul showed me how much I don't value myself by attracting in men who also don't value themselves, but seek external validation through multiple women because of their childhood trauma. Kind of seeing how this all works, how the universe is a mirror. So I encourage you not only to transform your wounds into wisdom for your emotional care, but because the body is also a mirror to the soul as well, it will help with your body. So this is how it works. So we have our soul, our energy body, and that communicates out through our hearts. And the nervous system in our hearts is far more complex than our brains and sends like 90% more signals to our brains than the other way around. So I have feared my soul from my childhood trauma, fear all men, and it's constantly being communicated out of my heart up to my brain. So how does my brain respond? Okay, cortisol, 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 fight or flight, fight or flight. Oh, okay. Well, when a person has increased cortisol levels over an extended period of time, it keeps the blood sugar abnormally high. Well, what does that fuel? Inflammation. Oh, inflammation is responsible for about 90% of our diseases. Heart disease, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune diseases, all kinds of diseases, inflammation is a result of. And why do you have that inflammation? Because you haven't learned how to operate your soul, how to transform your wounds into wisdom, so that you are, you learn how to go into your fear, guilt, and shame, surf the waves of life, but you don't stay at the bottom of that first wave like I did. I mean, I didn't know how to get out of the first wave. I didn't know how to climb my next mountain. I was just stuck in my fear, guilt, and shame, hence 35 years of debilitating lower back pain that only went away when I was 50. But now that I spend most of my time in courage, love, and enlightenment, I mean, the first time I experienced enlightenment, it was 3 days and I lost 12 pounds, even though I was in pretty much perfect shape. That's how transformative it is. And the highest vibrating energy is the most transformative. And so that's why we're going to learn how changing the world is an inside job. The universe is a mirror. We live in a holograph. Cardiology and neuroscience. The heart invites blood into motion through coordinated twists and releases. It creates our energetic vortex. And we're going to learn that blood naturally flows in a spiral, and that blood flows in the embryo. I'm going to show you a video before the heart is formed. So the blood naturally forms in a spiral, and the twists and releases by the heart help fuel, like a vortex, help fuel the spiral. Because a pump is physiologically incapable of pushing blood, a thick fluid, through 60,000 miles of tubes. It's just impossible. But that's why we've all learned like an external locus of control, which is a Christian worldview. Okay, so the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century, there was the rise of the nation state, external locus of control. They create a religion to model that. I know this can be triggering to some, but I have to bring it up because there's been a lot of research by psychologists that when we have an external locus of control, that sets us up for the victim mindset. That sets us up for oppressor, oppressee, like the communism. It sets us up for tons of codependent issues. But when we accept that we live in a holographic universe, our hearts are a vortex, and they push our emotions out to hit the quantum field to see what we resonate with. So if I have part of my soul that vibrates at 40 hertz, and let's call that selfishness, for example, when I'm around other people who also have that 40 hertz, we attract what we are through energetic resonance, meaning a vibrational match, as we saw in that physics experiment. When my 40 hertz moves, their 40 hertz also moves, and that's how I identify my tribe. That's how I see myself and understand who I am. So when you perceive selfishness outside of yourself, that is your soul showing you the selfishness inside of yourself. Now, that person's probably also selfish too, but I'm not responsible for that other person. I don't have control over that other person. And why am I a soul having a human experience? To expand my own emotional range. And I know that when I change myself internally and increase my vibration internally, I naturally help everyone else. The highest vibrating energy is the most transformative. That's why when you look at studies, 1 million kids meditated. And then disease went down and violent crimes went down during that time period. We're souls. And the field is a soul governing agency of the particle. It starts with the energy. It starts with the emotion. It starts with the field. So spiral systems adapt where linear systems break. So the spiral is the stability, is the resilience. That's why you see so many spirals in the universe. They allow movement without rupture. It is the most energy efficient, turbulent reducing way to move matter. Heart coherence equals a regulated nervous system. Okay. I'm going to share. Let's see how the heart is a vortex now and how that all operates. Wrong one. Okay, here we go.
Just read this because I think it's actually probably one of the best descriptions of the heart that I've ever ran across. They taught you the heart was just a glorified meat pump and it squeezes and pushes blood like some crude mechanical device. A hydraulic engine made of flesh. That is what they want you to believe. Because if you buy into that primitive lie, you never ask deeper questions. but it is false. It has always been false, and the real science proves it. Dr. Francesco Torres, a Spanish cardiac researcher, discovered what the textbooks refuse to acknowledge, that the heart is not a pump. He dissected thousands of hearts and found that the heart is a single continuous muscle band folded into a spiral. He proved that the heart works like a vortex generator, creating suction and torque, not pressure. He called it the helical ventricular myocardial band, and it changes everything. The real movement of the blood comes from pressure differentials, electromagnetic flow, and coherent resonance. The blood spirals naturally. It need not be forced through miles of arteries and capillaries. The so-called pump is not strong enough to push thick fluid through 60,000 miles of tubing. That is basic physics. That lie was dead on arrival. Here is the truth. Blood moves before the heart forms in the embryo. That is, by the way, a documented fact. It flows via frequency, resonance, and electric charge. The body is a field, not a factory. Your heart creates a toroidal electromagnetic field that radiates 6 meters from the body. This field syncs with the earth, the sun, and every living being around you. It is a resonator, a tuner, a conductor. It aligns the rhythm of your cells. It feels, it remembers, it emits, and responds to emotion, thought, light, sound, and breath. When you feel love, grief, fear, or peace, your heart transmits it. It is the central frequency modulator of your biology, not a pump. And the institutions know this. The Heart Math Institute has measured these fields for decades. They know the heart has more neuronal cells than parts of the brain. They know it is a second brain. They know coherence in the heart transforms the entire nervous system. So why are they still teaching children a 400-year-old guess from William Harvey that has never been updated?
That is one of the questions that I'm trying to answer personally. But there, the pump is an external locus of control. I recently did a YouTube video on how a TEDx talk was canceled 2 months after it was done, about 10 years ago. And he got into all this, like questioned all of this. Why are we teaching people that the body is full of like a mechanical design, when we have all this other research that shows differently? That, it's physiologically impossible for the heart to be a pump, but yet we teach that. So what is your worldview preventing you from learning? What is your worldview keeping you stuck in and not seeing how you can be the best version of yourself? I mean, these are all the questions I had to ask myself, because let's be honest, coming out and saying, oh, I'm the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. I mean, that's gnarly. Like that, whoa, I have a master's degree from UCSB. Like I studied under the best. So coming out and saying that was not something that just flew out of my mouth, because it's so profound, right? We, the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, the reincarnation of this person. And then to say that my guy from childhood is a reincarnation. Oh, can you guys, please mute yourself. Of Christ. That's gnarly. It's gnarly. Please, can you guys please mute yourselves? Anyway, but this is what I'm just showing you. The heart is a vortex. If we were teaching, men that, women have a vortex in their heart and they're the emotional center, that flies in the face of Christianity, because Christianity teaches that the man is the spiritual leader of the family. But if we accept that emotions is the spiritual, that women, are the emotional center, and that our nervous system is far more robust than the man's nervous system, that our heart is a vortex, and that's the feminine, and you can't command a vortex. I mean, that's just based on the laws of physics. Can you command a black hole? No. So when we act like women need to be commanded and suppressed, we lose emotional intimacy. And emotional intimacy is where mental health is created and sustained. And so I just encourage you to do a deep dive. And I don't say these things lightly. I didn't come to this without a ton of research. You know, I'm by myself all day long, experiencing enlightenment and doing research and making YouTube videos. Like, that's my life. And so I understand that, you know, it's a lot for me to say that. But let's go. Oh, and I want to share a Tesla quote that's also at the beginning of my book. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so let's watch how a heart is formed with that wisdom and knowledge in mind, okay? And I'll read this to us. Oh, uh, long before your heart ever beat. Oh, thousands of cardiac cells made a silent decision. There was no pulse, no rhythm, no sound. In the earliest stages of development, individual heart cells began firing electrical signals on their own. Then something remarkable happens. They synchronize. The field is the sole governing agency of the particle. Separate impulses align into one coordinated electrical wave. That wave triggers the first contraction, the first heartbeat, the beginning of a rhythm that can last a lifetime. Okay. Sorry, that volume was way too high. Let me get back to where we are here. Let's bring together neuroscience and psychology and Carl Jung. And we'll hear from Dr. Huberman. I love him. There is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. To round itself out, life calls not for perfection, but for completeness. For this, the thorn in the flesh is needed, the suffering of defects without which there is no progress and no descent. Life is like jumping on a trampoline. You have to explore your depths before you can explore your heights. But now let's let Dr. Huberman give his perspective. How do we resolve today's cultural issues with so much fighting? Do we engage in cancel culture? Do we cancel things outside of ourselves to solve the problem? Or do we change our insides to solve the problem? Does he agree that changing the world is an inside job?
What we need to do is start to figure out how we can, I think, especially for the next generation of kids, how to teach them to regulate their nervous system so that they recognize that pulse of adrenaline as placing them in a compromised position. Like, we have to leverage the idea that being able to hear and listen hinges on the ability to be calm. So therefore, the ability to be calm is crucial to hearing and listening, and hearing and listening is crucial to our advancement as individuals and as groups. The problem is everyone's been trying to do this backwards. They've said we all have to get along, we have to cancel culture, we all have to, listen to one another. And I think, again, we have to start from the inside. We have to teach it physiologically. Now, I don't have a master plan on how to do that, but one of the reasons I'm here and one of the reasons I'm, teaching neuroscience on Instagram and not just in my laboratory is until we can learn to regulate the self, I don't think we're going to get where we want to go as a culture.
And I'll ask you, how can we solve today's problems where having civil discourse is so challenging in society? Do we cancel the people we deem inappropriate? Or do we teach people to regulate their own nervous system, expand their emotional range so they're capable of civil discourse in a mature adult way? So when I finally accepted that the universe is a mirror, I was like, well, when I call someone selfish, I'm talking about myself. When I call someone racist, I'm talking about myself. When I call someone a misogynist, I'm talking about myself. And that gave me the opportunity for tons of self-reflection. I mean, I bet all of us could take a year, write down all the times we told someone that they were bad, and we could say, well, how was I bad? Spend a month on that. Oh, selfish. Oh, spend a month on how I'm selfish. These are all ways we can see ourselves. But when we don't teach people that the universe is a mirror, that the heart is a vortex, we live in a holographic universe, and we teach people, okay, fear God and just submit, and then he'll guide you, we don't come to our own understanding about how reality is really created and how we can expand our emotional range all on our own. how we all have sovereignty over our soul. Like, it's nice for Jesus to forgive you, but until you internalize your own forgiveness, you're not going to change, and you will continue to get triggered because your soul will continue showing you your wounds until you change your wound into wisdom. Like I used to get triggered constantly and blame everybody else for my problems. And it was a huge issue, but I don't do that anymore because I understand that what I project is me. And we're going to get into one of Carl Jung's quotes on that in a second, especially regarding Andrew Tate, because he triggers so many people. Okay, neuroscience. Why recalibrating one's nervous system is the healing process. So, recalibrating the nervous system heals trauma by shifting the body from a chronic survival-based fight or flight state back to a state of safety, social engagement, and relaxation. That's what Dr. Huberman is talking about. How do we do that? We have to learn to turn our wounds into wisdom. Like my first, in the ebook, the first lesson is appreciate, learn, forgive equals ego death. Why appreciate? Well, that's the sentiment. That's the feminine. That opens the heart. And that calibrates the nervous system for calm because gratitude reduces cortisol. Well, now that we feel calmer, safer, social engagement is engaged deeper with yourself. Then once you do the feminine goes first, surrender, like surf the waves of life. You have to go down before you go up, right? Then the masculine is the analysis. Like for me, why was it necessary for me to attempt suicide? What was my soul teaching me? For me, why was it necessary for me to get divorced? Why was it necessary for my son to have autism? Let's use Jesus Christ. Why was it necessary for Jesus Christ to be crucified in front of Mary Magdalene to see and understand himself? But when we all live with the worldview, Jesus died for our sins, we don't ask those questions. But that's a codependent worldview. And even if he did die for our sins, that is a worldview. How does that help you become a more emotionally mature human being? And those are questions I'm going to leave you with. I know they're very difficult questions. They are. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But they're important questions for us to ask. How do we view ourselves? And what's our worldview? And then what questions do we ask based on our worldview? Like if we accept the heart's a pump, then we're never going to learn the heart is a vortex, because that's the exact opposite. So this process uses neuroplasticity to rewire neural pathways and quiet an overactive brain. But that's what all these techniques will show you how to do today. And when you apply them all together, you can make faster progress. This process allows the brain to stop associating present environments with past dangers. Like my past dangers came from my childhood. But until I healed from that, I would continually get triggered from events and situations that appeared to be similar. And I didn't know why, and I blamed everybody else for it. Because I was unaware, I was unconscious. When your nervous system shifts, relationships shift. The universe is a mirror. So when I learned to apologize, my relationships got better. Imagine that, right? 1 + 1 = 2, but I didn't know how to access the wounds, the lies in my subconscious that was, I was unknowingly allowing to destroy my life. Decision making sharpens, business problems resolve, patterns dissolve, and healthier patterns come up. When I love myself, healthy boundaries just come out of me. Healthy boundaries. Oh, please put yourself on mute. Because you're no longer reacting from old wounds. You're reacting from new wisdom. You are responding from new wisdom and knowledge unearthed in your soul. And this is why you have to learn how to operate your soul, or it will operate you. Epigenetics. Okay, here's Dr. Bruce Lipton, who I said I was on that small Zoom call with. Epi means before genetics, signifying what happens before our genetics are triggered. Can you guys please put yourselves on mute? Hang on, let me, where, oh, let's see.
People.
Hang on, let me get back here. We have time, and I promise I'll give you guys as much time at the end. I have all kinds of time to answer all your questions at the end and even get into personal questions. There. Oh, there's more people. Okay. There's still, please put yourselves on mute, guys. It's really helpful for me if you could put yourselves on mute. Here we go. Okay, I think I got everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much for your patience. Okay. Let me go back. All right. I'm getting better at it. I can get around better this week than last week. Okay. So Dr. Bruce Lipton. So he also went over that less than 1% of our mental and physical diseases come from our genetics. And this video shows us how. And when he said that in that small group, I'm like, wow. More than 99% of our diseases come from the wounds in our soul, in our energy field. I'm just let you sit with that for a second. How many diseases have you had that could have been prevented by healing from your childhood trauma? How many bouts of a cold, a virus, a bacteria, cancer, autoimmune challenges? Because I almost died when I was 30. I got bacterial pneumonia and became septic, spent 2 weeks on a ventilator when my second child was 5 weeks old because I went right back to work and didn't value my daughter and my need for self-care. Money, money, money. Money and convenience came before health and well-being, and that led me to my demise. So maybe you could ask yourself, when have you put money and convenience before health and well-being, and then what happened? Think about it. So let's hear from Dr. Lipton.
Whatever picture you hold in your mind, the brain releases complementary chemistry that matches that picture, and it releases it into the body. And the chemistry of the blood is what controls the genes and the behavior. Children, when adopted into a family where there's cancer running in that family, the adopted child will get the same family cancer. But the point, the adopted child has totally different genetics. What was the point? It was being adopted into a family with the programming of that child is what caused the cancer. It's consciousness who releases the chemistry to the environment that controls the genes. And you can change your consciousness, and you can change your environment. And all of a sudden I said, oh my God, we were programmed to be victims. It turns out we are masters of our genetic activity. And this is the new science called epigenetics.
Like he said, we were programmed to be victims. We were programmed for an external locus of control. And my first enlightenment experience was exactly that, about the balance between men and women. So this is what happened in my first enlightenment experience. I sat in my recliner on a Tuesday afternoon. I started vibrating really high, and I wasn't thirsty, I wasn't hungry, I wasn't asleep, I was just vibrating really high. And the next morning, it was even stronger. And I hadn't left the chair. And I heard in my brain, enlightenment, enlightenment, enlightenment. Like, okay, I'm at that level. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I'm at that. Oh my gosh. Right? Because no one, yes, I have a master's degree in East Asian religious studies, but no one taught me what happens, right? No one taught me that it's an emotion. So after that, I was guided to ask the universe, what's the wisdom I'm going to receive? So I did. And then I was shown, because it was Justin Waller and Andrew Tate in 2022, and that was summer of 2022, and then fall of 2022 was my first Fire Academy instructor, and then the second Fire Academy instructor. And so I was really interested in the first responder mental health crisis. So first I was shown all the first responders like an arc of protection over society. And then I was like, well, they're all mentally ill. I mean, it's so bad. 2% of the American population are first responders, but they account for 20% of the suicides. It's really challenging situation. And then who finds them? Other first responders. So the first responders are mentally ill. I'm like, oh, let's go to the family. I'm like, oh, I come from a divorced family. Divorce is, it's so prevalent. Okay, the family's messed up. I'm like, everything's messed up. Just take me back to the beginning. There was God, and then what happened, right? Like, where did we go awry? But then I'm like, okay, God, and I'm an analyst. Like I used to work at Anthem Blue Cross in the risk and issue department, analyzing issues at that level, $1 billion company. So I'm like, well, what does God do? God creates and he orchestrates. I'm like, well, wait a second. Creation is feminine. Why are we ascribing a feminine quality to a masculine God and then wondering where the patriarchy came from? Right? So in 2024, I had no idea about Mary Magdalene. I wasn't even thinking about it. And I'm just trying to heal from my trauma and try to find, I wasn't even aware of JC from my childhood, really. I kind of, oh yeah, he used to stare at me, but I didn't really think of him. I was like super into the fire captain. I was like, ooh, he's hot. Yay, fire captain. Fire captain instructor. So I'm like, well, what happens when we separate and create, the divine feminine as equal to divine masculine? Then we have the feminine lane and we have the masculine lane. And what happens if we mirror that in society, in our nuclear families, where the feminine is equally valued to stay home, be with the kids, the emotional center, and she also does the spiritual work, mirroring the Cherokee proverb, a woman's highest calling is to connect a man to his soul so he can unite with source. A man's highest calling is to protect a woman so she can walk the earth unharmed. Women are, right brain work, compassion, nurturing, forgiveness, creation, intuitive. That's femininity. That controls the left side of the body, which is the feminine side. The left brain controls the right side of the body. The left brain is logic. I'm like, well, this just makes sense. So that's just kind of where I was shown that when we repress the feminine, this is what we get. Women don't value their femininity. We leave the house to go work like men. And then that destroys our relationships and destroys our mental health. And here we are in a mental health crisis. And we have more therapists than ever, but talk therapy isn't that effective, or we wouldn't have a mental health crisis. And we'll get into why in a minute, why talk therapy is a challenge. But that's kind of how I, started seeing all this, that is the divine feminine, the divine masculine. But if we change how we perceive God in divine feminine, divine masculine, then we can change society for the better, change ourselves and change society. And if, women stay home with children, which women are designed to be that, to mirror an infant's emotional state back to them in a healthy way, so that the infant and then the child learns to regulate their own emotions and they can individuate, they can become an authentic person without being punished and criticized for expressing themselves like I was. And that's how we create healthy human beings. Okay, family medicine. This is where we get to Dr. Gabor Mate and what he said about cancer. When people do not know how to say no to others in order to prioritize their own physiological needs, that was me, the body will say no for them in the form of disease such as cancer. And there's tons of research proving this now. And the people who get cancer and the people who don't heal are the people who continue to put community or family before themselves. But when I started doing my own work and these, like the love hierarchy, I just saw what I was changing inside myself and how I'm behaving. And then I kind of came up with this structure. I'm like, oh, well, as a child, I had a subconscious belief that I'm the problem. So if I'm the problem, then I create other people's problems. That was mirrored to me by my parents. And so if I'm nice to everybody else, put everybody before myself, that's the way I can have healthy relationships. But that wasn't true. We attract what we are to see ourselves. We live in a holographic universe. The universe is a mirror. Oh, okay. When I started learning that, I'm like, okay, so I need to love myself. And over time, the more I change myself, then my relationships will improve and my experience of the world will improve, and I'll stop arguing with people. It's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. If I fill up my own cup of love first, and then I have overflow, and I pour on others from my overflow, then I'm healthy. Like, here's an example. Let's say I have one pair of shoes and I see someone who doesn't have shoes. And I'm like, oh, here's my shoe. Here, have my shoes, have my shoes. Is that putting community first or yourself first? Because I'd argue community, and I used to do that, and I used to be around people that did that. I'd give away things that I wasn't giving to myself, and then wonder why I had so many problems. But when I learned to prioritize myself in terms of diet, exercise, walking barefoot in nature, basic self-care, then I gave myself permission to rest, which I only did at 51 years old, like permission to rest. I'm sure that's resonating with a lot of people because it always does. We're so busy working, like, especially, the women, and then like, the men too, because then the men do not have a healthy emotional center to come home to help them process their emotional challenges, work it through, and then go out and work the next day. We're both trying to make money and then wondering why we're mentally ill. Men and women are complementary. We're not identical. And I know that we've been through a whole social constructionist movement in the last couple hundred years. Men and women are the same. No, we're opposites. We're here to complement each other, not be the same. Men don't have a womb for a reason. Women have a womb. Okay, Dr. Mate. So we'll come back to Carl Jung. And let's listen to Dr. Mate's clip, and then we'll go over Carl Jung, because those two work together.
What happens to a child where the attachment need is not compatible with the need for authenticity? In other words, if I'm authentic, my parents will reject me. If I feel what I feel and express what I feel and insist on my own truth, my parents can't handle it. And parents convey those messages unconsciously all the time. Not because they mean to, not because they don't love the child, not because they're not trying to do their best, but because they themselves are suppressed, or traumatized, or hurt, or stressed. And what does the child do with that? Well, if I give up my attachment for the sake of authenticity, I lose my relationships on which my life depends. Therefore, there's no question. What becomes suppressed is our authenticity, our emotions. And then we become 25 and 30, or 35, 40, and we don't know who we are.
Does that resonate with anyone? That was me. So what does Carl Jung have to say? Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views others find inadmissible. Was that you in your childhood? Because that was me. That was me in my childhood. Let me share exactly how I felt in my childhood. Let me bring up my website, my origin story, which is, I go over a lot of the signs and synchronicities about Mary Magdalene. There's me in my green Carmen Gia. I was raised in Southern California next to Malibu, but I worked at Hot Dog on a Stick from the time I was 14. That's when I started my 6-year career making lemonade, and I bought my own car. That was my car. But here I was at 5 years old, and here is how I felt for most of my life. That is a statue I found about 2 years ago of a grieving parent, and I didn't know about my forced abortions in my teenage years at that point. But that's helped me see myself and accept myself. Why would I resonate so much with a grieving parent when I don't remember having a miscarriage and I didn't agree to any abortions knowingly? I have 3 adult children, and as far as I knew, I'd only been pregnant 3 times. That's the hole I had inside of myself. So if I'm like that, what's left to connect with? And do you ever feel like that? Is that the loneliness that you feel? Well, I can tell you that is self-hate from your childhood. That's what it is. And you can heal that by loving yourself day in, day, and you're going to go up, but you're going to go down, up, and you're going to go down. But you're going to figure out how to surf. The waves of life that I'm surfing, I had to learn to surf the waves of life to feel confident enough to say, I'm the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. I'm going to make a ton of YouTube videos about it, and I have a webinar about it, and I'm going to talk about it publicly. That's how much I had to learn to surf the waves of life. And I'm about to sell my condo, right? And I haven't talked to Jason yet. There's so much healing that needed to happen between us. I talk to his soul all day long. We're getting closer, but you can imagine what was his life like. And we attract what we are, and he went to the FBI. What was his childhood like that drove him to act like that? And I saw him in high school. He wanted to talk to me during the day. I wouldn't let him near me in high school. He's the ASB president of a school of 2,000 kids, looks like Adonis, I kid you not, like blonde hair, blue-eyed, smart, a varsity, like, on the outside, the perfect guy. And I wouldn't even let him talk to me. I was scared to death of him. And I didn't know why. But elementary school, I didn't remember. Anyway, that's how I felt. And that's how I know this quote from Carl Jung and why I resonated with Andrew Tate, which I think we're going to get to here in a second. But Carl Jung, one does not become enlightened by imagining beings of light, but by making their darkness conscious. When we overactivate our brain and shut down our hearts, that's when we imagine, oh, utopia and outside of me and external can help me and help me and help me. It's like a childhood dream. But adults, we learn, okay, no one's coming to save me, and I'm an adult, I know this, I gotta pull myself up by my bootstraps and fix my problems. And so fixing your problems, making your darkness conscious in your subconscious, like I did, your wounds that are driving your dysfunctional behavior patterns, that are sabotaging your life. They used to sabotage my life, and they don't anymore, and it took me 10 years to do it. It's a long process. And here we have a quote from my book. So there are 6 men in my book. And as someone pointed out later last year, it's like, oh, 6 men and you, that's 7. That's like the 7 chakras. I'm like, oh, that's so true. Like the crown chakra was the first guy, Tim. The second one, Justin Waller. I had to use my intuition. Your third eye is your intuition. Like, why am I reaching out to Andrew Tate's best friend who's 16 years younger than me and has all the women in the world and I'm 52? But, okay, do it. I did it, Carrie. And that was 1 month after Jason got the job at GoDaddy and the FBI engages in internet censorship, and 2 months before Andrew's takedown started. So, but I didn't know that then. It just... After Andrew's takedown happened, I was like, gosh, it seems like I'm working in lockstep with someone, but I had no idea who, and I didn't remember Jason from my childhood. So anyway, but here's the Carl Jung quote about projection, and we could talk about Andrew Tate for a second. Okay, so Justin was the third eye, and then Andrew was number 3 in my throat. How, Andrew's not a quiet man. And in 2023, his soul came through to me and told me that my voice is louder than his. And it gave me so much confidence to speak, and that he showed me an image of that we were standing in this field and he was behind me and we just turned in a circle like, I got your back. There's all these huge screens. It was like my soul showing me that I'm safe. I can come out and say these things and I'm not, and he's got my back. So let's read what Carl Jung had to say about projection. If you imagine someone who is brave enough to withdraw all of his projections, then you might get an individual who is conscious of a pretty thick shadow. Such a man has saddled himself with new problems and conflicts. He has become a serious problem to himself, as he is now unable to say they do this or that. They are wrong and they must be fought against. Such a man knows that whatever is wrong with the world is in himself. And if he only learns to deal with his own shadow, he has done something real for the world. He has succeeded in shouldering at least an infinitesimal part of the gigantic unsolved social problems of our day. So if Andrew Tate triggers you, you probably have a sexual abuse wound. He's helping you. He's showing you yourself. And to quote Carl Jung again, what irritates us about others leads us to an understanding of ourselves. See, it goes out and it comes back. It's holographic. It's a projection. The universe is a mirror. Or I say, triggers are our healing friend and not our healing foe, because when your emotional pain's at the surface, it's a perfect time. Appreciate, learn, forgive. Let it go. And that other person who triggered you just did you a favor, and there's where the appreciation comes from. Other people are not in control of our emotions. Other people are showing us how we feel about ourselves when we get triggered. So it's a whole flip on this cancel culture. Cancel culture doesn't help anybody. It just keeps us in our tribes and keeps us fighting. We don't have to agree, but we need to be civil. That's what I'm arguing for. Civility. We don't have to agree, but civility is necessary. Okay, so now I want you to gather your pen, your paper, your mirror, or your phone, because we're going to do this Carl Jung, his best DIY trauma healing technique. And you could do this, for free all day long, and it does mirror a Reiki technique that is similar. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I want you to get out your mirror or your phone, and I want you to look at yourself. And I want you to write down what you hear in your head or your heart. Okay? And if it's about someone else, write it as if it's about you. Because your soul is showing you how much you put other people first. Like I had someone, oh, please mute yourselves. I had someone in my first webinar, well, my daughter and my daughter and my daughter. I'm like, are you putting your daughter before yourself? Do you see what I'm saying? But everything she saw that she needed to give to her daughter, I guided her and said, apply that to yourself. Give that to yourself. So please take 5 minutes. I'm going to start my timer. And I'll come back. I'm going to go to the bathroom. You can too. And then we'll keep moving on. You can use this when we go over the techniques in the ebook. Okay, let's keep going. I hope that was fruitful. In a minute, I'm going to do meditation and drumming. You'll have another opportunity to open yourself up even further and see what your soul will show you today. So next, we're going to go over the ebook, The 6 Divine Feminine Self-Love Strategies. Okay, so this is not a belief system. It's a soul operation system. It's how do you turn your emotional wounds and your soul into personal wisdom and knowledge. And each strategy addresses a different layer of internal experience. And, right now my jam is universe is a mirror. But maybe right now your jam is learn to surf the waves of life, or pain is initiation process to personal growth. Allow what speaks to you to speak to you, because your journey is specific to you. That's why comparing yourself, well, my friend did it in 2 years, but I'm on year 3. No, you're different. What you need is specific to you, and appreciate that your soul is giving you what you need, as challenging as it may be. Like my life, I'm sure yours is really challenging too. Your soul knows you the best. That's why no one's a victim. How can someone be a victim when our souls plan our lives based on our wounds for self-improvement opportunities? That's why Love Thy Enemy is inner knowing. Knowing that we're all souls having a human experience, that we all live in a holographic universe, that souls mirroring me back to me, like the men in my book who I didn't go on a date with them, but I'm so grateful for them, Andrew Tate as well, because they showed me myself. I mean, if Andrew Tate is saying my voice is louder than his, that's a clear metric. That's a global clear metric, because the man knows how to talk. The man knows how to talk. Okay? All right, the first one, appreciate, learn, forgive, equals ego death. Ego death means that you vibrate higher. You let go of some of your fear, guilt, and shame so you can spend the majority of your time courage, love, and enlightenment, those higher vibrating emotions, and you don't need to get sick to see how you're not caring for yourself, because that's what sickness really is. When I went back to work 3 weeks after my second child was born and my first child was 2.5, that wasn't a smart decision. Not a smart decision. So start with appreciation. Gratitude is a sentiment from the soul, heart and soul, right? And you express gratitude out through your heart, and your heart communicates gratitude to your brain. What does that do? That releases cortisol out of your body. It calms the body. It opens the heart. You feel safe, right? Then, okay, I'm safe inside myself. Then learning, the wisdom stored inside of the wound is when you recalibrate your nervous system. So when I turn my fear all men into men protect me, I went out in public and my daughter noticed instantly. I never didn't even say it. It was like before I could even speak, Mom, how are you different? Because she's a girl, she's my daughter, she knows me. So the important thing here is, number 3, forgiveness just flows naturally after you turn your wound into wisdom. Like I called my daughter back up and apologized to her after I saw that I had that internal subconscious lie that if I apologize, my loved ones will leave me. Well, no, that's wrong. What's important here and why it works here and why these processes work is that you're engaging both the feminine and the masculine. The feminine is appreciation. It opens the heart and communicates the brain to calm the body. The body is safe. Now I'm safe. Now I can go into that wound and turn it into wisdom. The analysis is the masculine. You've engaged both parts of your body. You've created wholeness. Carl Jung is about creating wholeness, not perfection. No one's perfect. That's why we come back through reincarnation to learn our lessons in one lifetime, then another lifetime, then another lifetime. Okay, so what are your lessons for this lifetime? But that's what's important, and we'll go over that in some of the other strategies, that when both sides of yourself, the feminine, the communication, the emotion, and then the masculine, the analysis, the action, when both sides of yourself are engaged and you create wholeness, then that's when you've healed part of yourself. But talk therapy often only communicates and there's no action. So then people stay stuck. Like we're going to get into that Lakota star feeding exercise, which heals people 6 times faster than talk therapy alone, proven by John Hopkins. Like, they know what they're talking about, right? Okay. Number 2, the love hierarchy. And I would say of any of them, like, put this on your refrigerator. Self-love comes first. And by self-love, I mean healthy diet, healthy exercise, walk barefoot in nature, give yourself time to rest. Don't put other people before yourself. I mean, sure, if you have kids, I understand that you have to do that. I do. I raised 3 kids. My kids were all born within 4 years, and I got divorced when the youngest was 3. So, I know. But, do your best. Okay, then your partner. Why self and then partner, not kids first? Because you and your partner create the safety in the home for the children to be able to be healthy, attached, and authentic in healthy ways. Then your extended family, and finally community. But kids now, taking 5-year-olds to protest against ICE, that's community. What does a 5-year-old know about ICE? And I understand I'm getting political here, and it might trigger some people, but that's on purpose. Let's think about that. Are we creating a healthy society by encouraging 5, 6-year-olds to go to protest? Is that their job? Do adults have a right to children, like in that instance, or do children have a right to healthy parents? I'd argue the latter, but I'd like you to do your own analysis on that. Think about that. How are we going to create a healthy society? Learn to surf the waves of life. Life is like jumping on a trampoline. The deeper you go, the higher you fly based on the laws of physics. The depth of the wound determines the height of the wisdom, And so it's all the same concept. Let me show the physics experiment, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. Here we go.
More demonstrations on it. Take a closer look. Now, this is a classic physics problem where we have 2 tracks that start at the same position and end at the same position, but their path from one side to the other is completely different. Now, these balls are able to roll down the tracks, so the question is, if I were to release them simultaneously, which track would get the ball to the opposite side the quickest? Well, let's give it a try. So the shortest distance between 2 points is not necessarily the fastest. Now, what's going on here? Well, we're giving both balls potential energy by lifting them up to a certain position. When I release them, only a small amount of its potential energy is changed into kinetic on this track, so its speed across the track isn't very high. However, on the low road track, I started out at that high position. It drops down, changes that potential energy into kinetic, but then it drops an additional distance, so more potential energy is changed to kinetic, so it's going to cover this distance at a higher speed.
So, I went the wrong way. So you see how that works? And I'm going to use the Carl Jung's, one does not become enlightened by imagining beings of light, but by making their darkness conscious. So the feminine surrenders to their emotions, and that downward is where you build the kinetic energy, the momentum, speed, and propulsion to climb your next mountain. If you want to climb Mount Everest, and I've been to the Mount Everest base camp, I can show you a picture in a second. How much preparation, how much surrender do you need to do to build more self-confidence and more self-belief and more self-love to climb the highest mountain in the world? Well, that's a lot, right? So that's why the feminine goes first. Like, appreciate, surrender to your emotions. And at the bottom, when you're in there, you're in your shadow, process your wound into wisdom. And then that wisdom catapults you to your next mountaintop. See, my problem was I got to the bottom and I didn't know how to get out. So I'm looking up, someone save me, being of light, save me, save me. Not understanding, it just wasn't time yet. that I needed to collect all of this pain, make it so terrible that in my 40s, I had 4 to 7 migraines per week. I had debilitating lower back pain. I couldn't get a boyfriend. I was a mess. I was a shit show. I'll just say it. I was a shit show. Okay. Like incarnate. I couldn't go in the sun for 2 years because it was just too bright. I had to get purple glasses. Can you guys mute yourselves, please? Participants, here we go. Did everyone mute themselves? Okay, great. Sorry about that. I'm working on it. I'm better today than last week. I promise to keep working on my Zoom skills. Okay. But anyway, that's why. And then, you don't start learning to surf on the 70-foot wave off of Portugal, right? Like that's enlightenment. You don't start climbing mountains at Mount Everest. That's enlightenment. You start with, like me, I started with, oh, I don't know how to apologize. Oh, this is why. Let me go apologize. And see, that happened before I attempted suicide, because when I attempted suicide, I had to go really deep, dark into myself to give myself the opportunity to pull out a ton more wisdom and knowledge. All by design. My soul plans my life based on my wounds for self-improvement opportunities. And my soul knows me the best. Okay, the universe is a mirror. We already went over that on the other slide. So again, I'll say wisdom says the universe is a mirror, showing me myself in every moment as a constant feedback loop for self-improvement. Knowledge says we attract what we are through energetic resonance, meaning a vibrational match. This is how self-awareness forms. And I mean, I know that it's painful to accept this reality because I've been through it. But once you kind of work through accepting it, you'll get triggered and triggered and triggered. I call it pinky toe healing. I hit every layer. Every layer has gotten triggered until I integrate this wisdom all the way into my soul so it doesn't trigger me anymore, but I use it. If I feel an impulse to call someone stupid, I'm like, oh, how am I stupid? So I just kind of, I engage with the process because it's so helpful, but I know it's really challenging in the beginning. Changing the world is an inside job. Well, we live in a holographic universe, so our external reality is a reflection of our internal reality. And our external experience is shaped by our wounds and wisdom stored in our nervous system and our soul. So how you feel about yourself is projected externally and determines what you notice, perceive, and attract into your life. Like I attracted Andrew Tate into my life. That's saying something. That showed me a huge part of myself. And so I helped Justin and Andrew through September of 2022. And then I started talking to the first Fire Academy instructor. And then Andrew was put in solitary confinement. And I talked to his soul in solitary confinement. I resonated with a man in solitary confinement. That's how alone I felt. And I was at home in my garage in the dark in that recliner where I experienced enlightenment. My kids hated that recliner. And so afterwards, I kept teasing them. I said, but that's a recliner where I achieved enlightenment. Mom, that's a recliner where you would rest and not spend time with us. But we need to be grateful for the recliner because that's where I achieved enlightenment. Mom, we hate that recliner. You see, like, they're my kids. I'm a mom. Okay, here is the physics principle. Your soul naturally aligns with the highest vibrating energy and motion. That's how energy operates. That's laws of physics, okay? That applies to the whole universe. Wisdom carries a higher frequency than a wound. Okay, so how do you calibrate your nervous system for love, compassion, and enlightenment instead of fear, guilt, and shame? Well, when love, compassion, and enlightenment come out of the heart, it naturally calibrates the nervous system for love, compassion, and enlightenment instead of fear, guilt, and shame. But when you're constantly expressing fear, guilt, and shame out of your heart to your brain, then that's what calibrates your nervous system. Okay, so when you start to change, relationships improve, decisions become clearer, and pressure is handled without collapse. Let's see this experiment right here of 5 metronomes. And you'll notice the second and third metronome from the left are the fastest, and how quickly they all synchronize. See, they all start to synchronize. So this is why changing the world is an inside job. And we all want to, live in a healthier, happier world, but we have to start with changing ourselves. And so the more time you spend with my free ebook on my YouTube channel, if you buy my book or have a session, my soul will naturally help you release your wounds and vibrate higher as well. And here's the last one. Pain is an initiation process to personal growth. I mean, I asked myself, why did I need 35 years of debilitating lower back pain? Why? Well, I had to learn that pain is beautiful because it reveals what longs to be healed. Pain shows us the way. And it's the integration of the opposites that creates wholeness. There's a dual nature to reality, right? Like the fact that God isn't dual in nature, but Christianity says we're made in the image of God. Where does duality come from? Does it come from our worldview of what God is? Is that what we should be questioning? Or should we be questioning something else? Because that's where I started questioning. When I accepted we live in the dual nature of reality, and it's the integration of the working together of the complementary aspects of feminine and masculine, where I became whole. My femininity, the communication, the surrender to my emotions, and then the actions to transform those emotions into wisdom. The masculine and the feminine working together in a complementary way is what creates wholeness inside of ourselves and inside of society. So it happens when something challenges you and you're forced to meet yourself honestly, like the universe is a mirror. Very hard. I know it's very hard. Very hard for me. I was liberal my whole life. I only voted conservative in the last election in 2024. Very hard for me. I live in Southern California, right? Difficulty isn't punishment. It's what builds resilience. It's what gives you opportunity to expand your emotional range. Now, I'm not saying that I was punished a lot in my childhood, but my soul wasn't punishing me. My soul was teaching me very deep, fundamental lessons about self-love and self-belief and about trust and resilience. Initiation is simply learning how to move through challenge without collapsing, avoiding, or turning against yourself. And that's learning to surf the waves of life. I mean, now I'm on 70-foot, enlightenment waves all the time with what I'm taking on, but I can do it because I believe in myself and I trust myself and I know my soul has a plan. Like, why was I born on June 25th? Direct opposite of December 25th. I was born in 1970, and my astrological chart screams divine feminine healer. It's on my website too, under origin story. I had he's a Jungian psychologist. The first person last year when I started going on YouTube channels to have interviews was him, Peter Dees, a Jungian psychologist who's also an evolutionary astrologer who specializes in divine feminine in the Middle East. He lives in Greece. I was like, oh, we attract what we are, right? So he showed me a lot about myself, and I'm very grateful. I have a review of my book from him on my website, and also my astrological chart from him. So here are my self-care strategies, another DIY trauma healing technique. Learn Reiki. Why Reiki? Reiki helps open your heart and helps you bring in more love to help you turn those wounds into wisdom. Every Reiki weekend I had, I was crying, and I released a lot of wounds every week. Every Reiki weekend I had. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a Karuna Reiki master. Karuna Reiki is feminine Reiki, and it's associated with a special monk in Tibetan Buddhism. And when I took the course, I realized that I had met that monk, because they're all reincarnated. The tops of Tibetan Buddhism are all reincarnated. That I met the reincarnated monk when I was in Tibet in 1993, and he was 7 years old. He escaped Tibet when he was 14, and now he lives in Dharamsala. And he's so special, he gave a TED talk at 21 years old. That incredible. I also met my Israeli ex-husband when I was in Tibet then too. But my soul has a plan to show me myself. We attract what we are. And, soon after that, foreigners were restricted from seeing him because in Tibetan Buddhism, you have the Dalai Lama, and then you have 4 types of Tibetan Buddhism, and he was the head of one of those 4 types, and in his Tibetan Buddhism, his type is the head of the 4 types. So he's kind of, in some ways, like the second most powerful spiritual leader in Tibet, and he was still in Tibet until 14 years old, so you can imagine his relationship with the Chinese government. And that he was the first monk the Chinese government allowed to reincarnate. He's the Karmapa. Anyway, exercise, diet, healthy diet. Like for men, see, men and women are complementary. We're not the same. So what's the best testosterone producing, cortisol reducing activity for men is chopping wood while vocalizing their emotional pain, because then the chopping is the masculine, the vocalizing is the feminine, and that's how you create wholeness. Diet, Google it. And women, I'll say for women, walking and gentle yoga are the best, but, do what's good for you, okay? Diet, Google that. What kind of diet do you need? Do you need to reduce inflammation? Do you need more meat? Do you need more vegetables? Everyone's an individual, but, Google, ChatGPT that, and you can do that for free. Nature. Spend time in nature, walk barefoot in nature. I'm prescribing nature therapy like so many doctors are doing worldwide now. And now there's tons of studies showing that nature therapy is more helpful than like SSRIs. Because what do SSRIs do? They repress your emotions so you don't feel them. But we need to feel our emotions to process them through. It's a Band-Aid, not a solution. A gratitude practice. You can Google it you can go on YouTube for a gratitude meditation. You can do it while journaling. Every day when you journal at the top, write 3 things you're grateful for. Are you grateful for your house? Are you grateful for animals? Do you have kids? Do you have a husband? Do you have a wife? Do you have a job? Do you like the shirt you're wearing? Find something to be grateful for and start producing gratitude out of your soul as opposed to complaints. Just start. Like I said, I've been at it for 10 years now, almost 11. Okay, let's go over the meditation and drumming benefits, and then I'm going to take us through a meditation and then the drumming, okay? So meditation benefits. You go from all that cortisol, that fight or flight, to rest and digest. It's a healthy way to center you back into yourself before you open further. It improves your heart rate variability, expansion of emotional range, emotional regulation. It lowers your blood pressure. It reduces cortisol, which reduces inflammation. It creates better emotional stability and cognitive function. Go to, drumming benefits. And it's that 4 beat. Bum, 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 bum. It creates structure as opposed to chaos. And then you go to your theta brainwave for creativity and insight. Nervous system regulation by inducing rhythmic entrainment with the beat. Rhythmic entrainment is kind of like you're training your emotions to deal with them and not just throw them everywhere. It creates structure. Helps access memory networks to release emotional pain. It helps you access your subconscious. So your subconscious can tell you, here's why you don't know how to apologize. Here's why you have a failed relationship. Here's why you had this challenge. And it reduces pain by releasing natural opiates. Okay. Anyway, so take a second, either lie down or sit comfortably, drink a water. And this will take about 10-15 minutes. We'll do a meditation and then I'll do some drumming. And okay, let me set my timer here. All right. All right, please close your eyes. Put your right hand over your heart and your left hand on your stomach. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. In through your nose. and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Now imagine all of the white light, the healing, loving, supporting light from the universe, shining down on your head, asking gently, please open your crown chakra, please open your soul, and let me help you. Allow that healing, loving energy from the universe, all that love, to swirl in your crown so that you can receive that assistance and trust that assistance and help you trust yourself. Now ask that healing energy to move into your third eye. Let it swirl in your third eye, asking for more guidance, more insight, more self-belief. Now move that healing energy down to your throat, your throat chakra. How loudly can you speak? What is your soul's purpose? What are you here to communicate? Love your throat. Love your communication. Move that healing energy down to your heart. Let it swirl in your heart. Open your heart to yourself, what you can learn from yourself. All the wisdom and knowledge in the universe is also stored in your soul, in every soul. So open your heart to yourself. Move that healing energy down to your solar plexus, your power source, your personal power source. Ask it to release your codependencies and your external validation, and ask it in turn to find where you can validate yourself internally with all your self-love, self-belief, self-compassion. Move your healing energy from the universe down into your sacral chakra, into your hips. If you're a woman, into your womb. If you're a woman, into your womb that connects you to your throat, your vagus nerve, ask it to heal. Ask it to communicate. Move that healing energy down into your root. If you're a man, ask your masculinity to release from your root and move to your heart for more emotional maturity and self-control. Out of your root into your heart. Move that healing energy down your legs, through your knees, all the way down your feet, all the way down to the crystalline core of the earth. So you're fully anchored below and fully connected above. Now imagine yourself floating in a soft eggshell, safe, with healthy boundaries. And this violet flame is encircling you, cutting all your codependencies, cutting your lack of self-belief, lack of self-love, and recalling all that energy to yourself, all of your capacity for growth back to yourself. You can ask Archangel Michael to help you cut those cords, or any other beings you pray to regularly. Now in that state, I am going to start drumming for about 10 minutes. If you don't hear me, you'll feel me. Just lay there, relax. And if it's quiet, you need rest. And if you get a vision, that's what you need. And if you need dialogue, that's what you need. Trust yourself to give you what you need. If you want to take a second to journal about what you saw or experienced, please do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. And now I'm going to introduce you to my YouTube channel. The most important video, which I'll show you in a second, let me break up my YouTube channel, is the drumming video. So the drumming video will help you. It's the meditation. It's a little bit longer than what I just did, but it's the meditation, a longer version, a longer drumming, and that will help you unearth more self-love out of you. It will teach you how to ground into your body so you'll draw healthy boundaries, so you're not constantly getting triggered and pulled by other people, so you have a strong constitution of self. And as you saw, the drumming will really help open you so you can get those visions, you can get the relaxation, you can get the inner dialogue. As one way to have that inner dialogue, this is here. I have a ton of videos that I've made that go over the healing process and, you know, what you can expect. I just got all the thumbnails corrected, so it looks a lot more, you know, up to date. But this is what I have for you free here for you to use to help you process your emotional pain. Okay. And there's even some spiritual humor in there. I love spiritual humor. But here is our next free DIY trauma healing technique called the star feeding. It's the Lakota method. So I found this on Instagram, and it showed that Johns Hopkins, the medical institution, did a study on this process and found that this process heals 6 times faster than talk therapy alone. Why? It creates wholeness. It engages the feminine and the masculine to create wholeness inside of the person. Like Carl Jung says, we're not here to be perfect, we're here to be whole. Okay, perfection is like imagining being of light. It's an overactive brain. No one's perfect. No human is perfect. That's why the capacity to apologize is so important. But anyway, in their exercise, you gather six stones representing the pain, but it can be paper, it can be other things. You know, this is just an example. Carry them to a river. Release them one by one while speaking the memory out loud to the water. If you want to spend more time speaking to the stones, if you want to write your pain on a piece of paper and then burn it, it's another way. Just engage the communication, engage the action. Communication is feminine, action is masculine. And keep the final stone as a reminder that grief was witnessed, not erased. And it might take a few times. And there's, you know, we're like onions, right? There's layers of pain. So it's like your healing, it happens in a spiral, right? Because that has more resilience, that you're going to come back to the same lesson at a deeper layer. That's why I talk about pinky toe healing. I heal all the way down to my pinky toe. And then I know I'm good. I'm done with that lesson. Why work with me? Trauma healing and enlightenment coaching. You are the summary of the 5 people you surround yourself with, like the synchronization experiment I showed you. When you spend time in my ebook, reading my book, on my YouTube channel, or working with me one-on-one, all of the work that I've done, all of the wisdom in my soul and how high I vibrate will naturally help you more and more. So you'll benefit from my regular enlightenment experiences. I'm in and out of enlightenment like the last 2 days. Thursday, I had a big enlightenment experience. Yesterday, I rested. And then I had another big one earlier in the week. But probably 2 or 3 a week now, because enlightenment is an emotion, part of our healthy emotional range. And I'm the feminine. I'm the emotional center. So that's my job. You will receive the wisdom and knowledge gained from my 10 years of personal healing work. And my methods save money in the long run. Like the way I do it is, if you want to work with me one-on-one, we'll have one session, and then I'll give you a ton of feedback, and maybe 6 months to a year, you might need to come back. I gave someone feedback and it was a year before she needed more feedback because it took her that long to process it through. But you will become independent in your emotional processing, and then you can teach it to others. So what's included in a private session? You do the meditation, we'll do the drumming, but longer versions. And then we'll go over what you saw during the meditation and the drumming. And we'll kind of use the techniques that I use that are in the free ebook, and we'll put it to practice. And I will help you do it. It's a triggering process because you're next to me, and so I vibrate so high, so your pain will naturally come to the surface. But that's what you want. You want your pain to come to the surface so you can see it and release it, process it through. If it's stuck way down in your shadow, then you can't get to it. So the point of coming to me is, okay, I'm going to get triggered, but it's going to work, and I'm going to let it go, and I'll be better for it. So you apply strategy. I apply the strategies to your specific internal blocks, and then you receive a video recording of your session for ongoing use. What it's worth. The private session is worth $2,500. The application of the 6 Divine Feminine Self-Love Strategies for $700, and then a recording for $300, but I have a special price today. The 2-hour session is $19.97. And I have a special for first responders and military. They get 4 sessions for the same, and they can give it to their friends. So I can help more of them, and that's why. And so, but if you want to have a session, have a big group session, we can do that. Or this session could be a group session. You could definitely do that as well. So if you'd like to move forward now, you can use the QR code to purchase a session. And I'll be around at the end. We're almost done here in a couple minutes. And you can ask me more questions then. But if you'd like to purchase a session, you can have it here. You'll also get a follow-up email with another opportunity to purchase. And that price, or whatever kind of special price I have ongoing, it'll always be this, be that special price for you. But I also don't know how long I'll be available one-on-one, because my goal is I'm global. Like, there's a reason when I reached out to Jason a year and a half ago that he had spent his whole life getting so accomplished, like a one-man wrecking show. Like, he's got internet security globally and the FBI. So I felt really safe talking and doing my YouTube channel because he's so accomplished. So I'm not sure how much longer I'll have time for this when that takes off. But right now I do. Here's my book. If you're not ready to buy a session, then my book, the electronic copy, is $2.99 on Amazon. And I don't have an Audible copy yet because that costs quite a bit of money. And I don't have that money yet. But eventually there will be, and then in other languages. But here it is right now. You can get it, or you can get a paper copy or hardcover. It's all on Amazon. Okay. If you're not ready to purchase yet, that's okay. You can book a 15-minute call with this QR code. And then we'll discuss what needs to happen to make this situation work out perfectly for us both. If the 2 hours together with you today, you weren't able to make a decision, I totally get it. $2,000 is a lot of money. And if you need 15 more minutes, please schedule with me. But that's what we're going to talk about, is how can we make the situation work out perfectly for us? Like, what are your concerns? Where do you see, is there any disconnect? What do we need to talk about? And so it's not a pressure decision, but it's a clear decision. If internal resistance is costing you focus, stability, capacity under pressure, waiting is still a choice, but you do have a lot of tools to choose from first to see if, that really works for you. But if you need more help, then I'm here. And my process works for people who value autonomy, efficiency, stability under stress, and self-command. Final instruction, purchase now. So if you'd like to purchase now, and for the $19.97, please do. I'll leave that up there for a second. Take another drink if anyone wants to purchase. And my book, one more time, is last chance. And then I'm going to shut down the webinar for the sharing screen, and we can talk. And the last chance to book a 15-minute call if you'd like to. Again, you'll receive an email too if you don't book the 15-minute call. And my email address is also on my website. And there's a contact page on my website, carrieblazer.com. Okay, if you felt resonance during this training, it wasn't emotion, it was a vibrational match, right? That was nervous system level alignment called resonance. That's how you know this is relevant without needing convincing. And thank you all for showing up. That alone tells me something about you, and I really appreciate your time. Okay, let me share. Hang on. I stop. Alrighty. Does anyone, and then I'm not recording, right? Okay. Oh. Does anyone have any questions for me that you'd like to talk about? Oh.